Hi, this is a video about a book I've been writing, video overview. This video describes the latest version of the book. It's about GPT-3 matrix math algorithms. Basic idea is by understanding the core part of these algorithms, you'll understand what artificial intelligence really is. Not only for LLMs like GPT-3, but for other types of GPU-based AI. This is the first draft version of the video. It's not going to be that perfect or polished. The book is changing all the time, and this video will have to be redone again, probably sometime soon. So I'll just try to make a quick go through. The first thing is a very, very short overview of the book. Too long, didn't read. What is AI? Well, AI is just a binary computing tool. That's what AI is. And to better understand how to use such tools, it really helps to study the basics of the core math that the tools are based on. That's what this book is about. And this book doesn't just rehash a lot of videos or stuff. It's a lot of very original ideas in this video. And if you understand this math, you'll understand the core of GPT-3. So I say here, if you're short on time, let's skip to chapters 4 and 5. So let's skip there. And this chapter 4 is meant as a concept chapter. Starts out with a simplified diagram of the computation process, the main workflows. And then we have a main diagram. That was a simplified diagram before. And now we have a main diagram. Two main diagrams. This is my original. I created this because I couldn't find this information anywhere else. And this is from Wikipedia, an edited version of Wikipedia. And you notice here, you've got 1, 2, and 3. There's 3 primary things you're doing in this big main diagram that you need to understand. And the first one is computing the context. When you're humans, when you hear the word bank, you don't know if it's a bank where you put your money or it's a bank where beside a river. And so when you enter a prompt in with the word bank, it's kind of difficult for the LLM first has to figure out what are you talking about. And it does that by computing the context based on other words. It's a very complex process, but I've made some good diagrams here that explain it. Then we have a feed-forward network, and that's similar to the context. It's just more computation to determine better the meaning of all the words you're dealing with. And then finally we have computing the new token. What this does is, ChatGPT, is it goes through this huge process with 175 billion parameters just to calculate one token. And in this little part 3 there, at the end, after you've done this very, very long process, you're going to determine the last token. And so then you're going to take that token, add it to what you had before, and then you're going to start the process all over again. You're going to go back to the beginning, you're going to reset everything, and do the same thing again to create a new token. That's basically how this works. That was chapter 4. Now, chapter 5. Chapter 5 goes into more detail. It's kind of the same material, but more detail. And chapter 5 is organized. You see like 1A That's step one in loop A. So 3B is step 3 in loop B. So it's very organized. The headings are all numbered. And this context that I talked about before is described in detail, each step with diagrams. Diagrams are not perfect, but I think they're pretty accurate. And it's a very organized discussion of a very, very complex topic. It took me a couple of weeks to figure out the details of this diagram. It was a lot of work, but well worth it. So that was the main part of the book, but now let's work our way backwards. There's another section of the book here called recognition. Recognition of pictures, recognition of text. This is a future part of the book. It's not ready yet. I have my notes here in chapter 7. But the idea of this recognition chapter is to describe the algorithms of a more simple AI tool to help understand more how the more complex algorithms in chapters 4 and 5 for GPT-3 how they operate. So if this is really hard, then the idea is go back and look at recognition first. Also, there's another chapter describing virtual reality, 3D video, with virtual intelligence, LLMs, that's what I call them. And what this chapter is it takes VR, which is like this, computer graphics, and it takes basically the math, the way that VR does math, and makes an analogy, uses that as an analogy to better understand how with LLMs the math is used to define tokens. I said before the tokens got like 12,000 words that describe it. These are very, very different things. 3D video is not AI, but the math is very, very similar. That's why they both use GPUs. When I first started out trying to figure out the GPT-3 math, I actually studied the VR because I knew they had to be related somehow because they're both using GPUs. And the VR gave me some insight and helped me to understand better what's going on in the LLM. So we've done the last 4 chapters here. Now, we're working our ways backwards to chapter 2. I like to work backwards. So we've covered LLM conversations. This is concepts. A lot of interesting concepts here. I won't talk about it now. And these are my original. The diagrams are not pretty, but again, it's my original text. And a lot of this I didn't see anywhere, so I had to write it myself. And this talks a little bit about programming, LLM training. So you hear that word training a lot of times, and what the word training means is that they find the answers, a huge number of answers, and they run really complicated computations on those answers to determine the weights, the 175 billion weights. And once those weights are set, the LLM doesn't learn anything anymore. So it's just fixed. And that's what they call LLM training. And then we talked about recognition. We talked about virtual reality. So I try to explain more the math matrix here. Again, a lot of my own ideas. So what we haven't talked about is chapter 1, section 2.1 and 2.6. So 2.1 is just concepts about intelligent humans and binary tools. You really have to understand if you're going to use AI correctly, AI is a misnomer. It has no intelligence. They are dumb binary tools, but they are very useful tools if you use them correctly. So this talks about the amazing capabilities of the intelligent human brain. The AI gurus seem to have no appreciation of this whatsoever. They seem to be more impressed by GPUs than the human brain. And the very primitive nature of neural networks. So it's just, they're like mechanical relays, basically, only a lot smaller and quicker. Then the AI hype. So these computer scientists, saying humanity risks being sidelined and replaced by machines far smarter than ourselves. Most people aren't able to comprehend the idea of things more intelligent than us. It's just ridiculous talk. So this is from the godfather of AI. Now he's pushing a lot of this AI-centric because I think it gets publicity, which means money, research grants, book tours, investments. And there's some other guy, would say, humans are out of touch with reality. So the scientist exposes why your reality is all a lie. This is just weird stuff. It's like when we were kids back in elementary school 50 years ago, we saw the first calculator, TI calculator. We were so impressed. We said, oh, this is definitely going to replace humanity very, very soon. And the experts now talking about AI, they're basically like we were back in junior high school 50 years ago. So, and now we've got a few examples of the amazing binary tools that have changed our lives. I think once you get rid of the hype, you can really appreciate the engineering genius that went into making these tools. And you can understand these are incredible accomplishments. So a lot of this section has been generated from GPT, but the core parts I've written myself. So the first part is the search engines. I mean, life before search engines was really, really complicated. So if you wanted to do any kind of research into your family history, or you have to go to the library or go to the courthouse, now you just Google it. Very, very simple. Then we had virtual reality. You had video games, 3D video games, but now you have like digital twins of airliners. You have, simulation of planes before you even build them, all made possible by this virtual reality. Yeah, image and character recognition, image, character, and object recognition. And again, this is AI. Search engine and VR were not really AI, but this is AI. And all it means is you have some algorithms that take the input, run a huge amount of statistical analysis. There's no intelligence involved. And from that, it can make the best probable guess about the input. That's AI. Nothing more, nothing less. Then we have the chatbots, like what I'm talking about, LLMs. And this is my main diagram about the chatbots, the different parts. And then I left in some stuff from GPT. So, yeah, that's it. So continue working our way backwards. This book. Let's see, this book chapters. Why I wrote this book. I started writing out this book for myself. Chapter 5. I was trying to get to the core of what GPT-3 really is. I couldn't get a simple explanation anywhere. It's like, why is this so complicated? So my notes became this book. Now, I couldn't have written this book without the latest version of GPT. So if you look at my wiki, I've got a wiki here. Let's see if I open it. And anyway, that's me. And my professional focus. But here there's a link to my deployed demos, lab notes, Git. There's a whole lot of stuff on this wiki. And so my wiki is full of demo AI apps that I was able to create because of GPT. Sorry, I didn't mean GTP. I meant because I was using Visual Studio Code with Copilot. And so there's a very large number of demos and stuff that I've done. I couldn't have gotten through all this without having an AI Copilot programming tool to get through all the very, very many small problems. Just an amazing tool for software development. And like I said before, GPT has been just invaluable for writing this book. So, and here's a picture from Terminator 2, where Sarah discovers that the Terminator is the ultimate co-pilot for her son. When you're working with GTP and the co-pilots, the greatest thing about them is they're always there. Okay, they're always ready. They have incredible abilities that people don't have. And understanding how LLMs work is a huge professional advantage. OpenAI is worth $350 billion, at least it was a few weeks ago, because I think it's going to be the new search engine. And so if I had understood AI neural networks in the past, I would have started studying AI years ago. But I really couldn't get to the gist of how all this works until I had ChatGPT to help me. So ChatGPT is not intelligent, it's not perfect, but well, I tell you, it's just revolutionary. So if I only knew back then what I know now, yeah, I would have bought ChatGPT. I would have bought Nvidia stock. So now you're starting to get an appreciation, I think, of why Nvidia has so much market value. Because all of these algorithms that do all of this, they all are running GPU math. That's why. Now in the future, there's probably going to be a lot of competitors because you can do the GPU math more efficiently if you have a chip that's designed specifically for that GPU AI math. And that's not really NVIDIA. NVIDIA is more like a hack. They took originally what was for video games and they modified it, but still they're going to have a lot of competition in the future. And the primary sources I consulted for this book, hands-on demos that I've done over the past year, which I showed you in my wiki. These 3 blue, 1 brown videos. Incredible set of videos. But a lot of little details left out, which is I hit a wall when I was watching these videos. I couldn't figure things out. Something was missing. And I got what was missing by having a lot of conversations with ChatGPT. It's not intelligent, so you have to spend a lot of time figuring out what here has GPT made a mistake, what has GPT missed, but it's still really incredibly helpful. So if we keep going backwards, we're back to where we started, TDLR. So I think now you have a good understanding of the book. Like I said, the copyright, doesn't matter. And here's the first page. I write documents like this much different now in the age of AI. When I use GTP, I do things differently. I've learned to work with GTP to make documents like this. Like I said, there's a lot of notes in this document of ChatGPT. I have to go through it still and sort a lot of things out, but I think now the structure is still, this is the first version with the correct structure. So now this is almost 20 minutes, so let's summarize. So after using GPT and other LLMs, I really shudder at the thought of riding in a car driven by AI. So car driving AI is not LLMs, but it's going to be using the same kind of concepts. It's going to be using matrix math, GPUs, computing probability, and then makes decisions based on numeric results. That letting something like that drive your car, to me, is crazier than the idea of human traveling to or colonizing Mars. So that's it. What do they always say at the end of these videos? If you like, hit the like button or hit the subscribe button. Send the links to your friends for this video. My wiki, share it. One last thing, I'm looking for a job. I've been unemployed for a while, and any help would be greatly appreciated. I'd like to work in this area of AI somehow, in some way. So I hope you found this video educational, and thanks for watching.